Okay, we're on 8D now, empirical versus molecular formula. And the reason I have Plankton on there is because he's looking at the formula. Okay. Just for future
Where's
reference.
the formula? He's looking up.
I'm editing that out.
Just move it above.
So up first, we have the molecular formula. So we're doing it molecular and empirical. The molecular formula is what you're used to. Okay, it tells you the actual numbers of atoms in a molecule of the compound. So in one molecule of glucose, we have 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. Okay, that's what we're used to. Now, we also learned, though, a chemical formula that is reduced. So molecular is not reduced. We learned empirical, which is reduced. An empirical formula gives the lowest whole number ratio of the atoms of the elements in a compound. So, we had glucose earlier, 6, 12, and 6. Well, that reduces to 1, 2, 1. And so these two share an empirical formula where it's both 1 to 2 to 1. Can you see? Don't lie. Mark, can you sit right there?
Yeah.
Now can you see? It wasn't even in the way. Okay. Again, Al3Cl9. That reduces to AlCl3. So if it's not reduced, it's molecular. If it is reduced, it's empirical. Perfect. Now you know the difference. Well, we can calculate both of those. So the empirical formula, we can calculate the empirical formula if we are given the masses of the elements that are present, or the amount of each element that's present. So we can find this by dividing all of the subscripts in a formula by the highest common denominator. So C6H12O6, if you divide them all by 6, you get C1H2O1. And we know to divide it by 6, even if we were not actually given anything else. Like if it just told us how much of each one was present, we could figure out that the power is 6. That's what we're talking about. And then in the molecular formula, the actual number present, we can go the other way by multiplying by 6. And I'll show you that too. So, calculating the empirical formula. So you'll have problems on your test where you'll be given just the percentage of how much is present, and we can get all of the formulas just based off of this information. Okay? So we're given carbon shows up. Carbon is at 40%. This is where you might want to write. H is at 6.72%, and O is at 53.28%. Are y'all too far away?
You said 6.27?
Y'all be whispering as if you're too far away, but I can hear you. 6.72. Should I fix that? Okay. So now I have my percentages. Here's how I do this. Step 1, I need to change the percentages to grams. Yes. This is the only time you can do this. Anytime you're given it like this, you literally change it to grams. There's not a conversion step. you have to know, it's a little trick that we use to help us get the empirical formula. You literally change the label from percent to grams. And then when we do that, that allows us to convert each of these to moles. And when I can convert these to moles, I can then start to figure out my formula. So I have 40 grams, 6.72 grams, and 53.28 grams. I'm going to now divide by the molar mass of each of these elements. So carbon, I'm going to divide by 12.011. H, I'm going to divide by 1.008. And O, I'm going to divide by 15.999. Where did I get those numbers? Okay, good. So you find those numbers in the table, and you divide each of your terms so that all of them are in moles. When I get that answer, first I'm going to have 3.33 moles of carbon. H, I'm going to have 6.66 moles of hydrogen. In O, I'm going to have 3.33 moles of oxygen. Well, if it's not immediately obvious, these answers are in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. Okay? And I'll show you how we know that. The second step after that is to divide these answers by the answer that is the smallest. Whichever one is smallest, because we're now relating all of these moles to each other to know what ratio they're in. So you're going to divide these answers that you got in moles by whichever number is the smallest. The number that's the smallest is 3.33. So I'm going to divide all of them by 3.33. And once I do that, it's going to spit out the answer of the subscript in my empirical formula. 3.33 over 3.33 is 1, 2, 1. So this means that carbon is going to have a 1, H is going to have a 2, and oxygen is going to have a 1. So my empirical formula is CH2O. And all I used was these given amounts right here. Then I converted to grams. Then I divided by moles. Then I divided by the smallest possible answer. What? It's not bad, right? It's easy. It sounds strange why you do those steps, but then once you see it at the end, you can see that we're just relating these answers to each other to get them in a ratio. So now that we have the lowest ratio, we have the empirical formula. Well, next, we can calculate the molecular formula. The molecular formula is calculated by first, they have to give you a mass. And they will. They're going to give you a mass, and they will either give you an empirical formula, or they'll say, first calculate the empirical formula over here, then use that with this mass. Either way, these are your next steps. You take the mass they give you, and you divide it by the mass of your empirical formula, and then that will give you the power that you need to multiply your whole formula by. So it'll look like this. We have 180.16 as our given mass. So we'll do 180.16. And we want to divide it by the mass of just normal CH2O. So that would just be 12 plus 2 times 1.008 plus 15.999. When I get that mass, I get 30.03. So now I'm just going to divide 180.16 by 30.03. And that answer will be about 6. And so I know my factor is 6 because I just did what's the given mass divided by my empirical mass. And so that's what I need to multiply by to get my final formula. So now my final formula is going to be CH2O times 6. So it's going to be C6H12O6. And now I have both the empirical and the molecular formulas. That's it. You'll need more practice with this. There are practice problems in this PowerPoint, and this PowerPoint tells you the exact steps. I literally just read it to you.
Shannon, you're so high.
I know. So we've officially learned everything in the mole unit. So tomorrow we're going to finish all of the work, and today you're going to finish all of the work. And that's it. As always.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell if you want to see more notifications. And peace.
I'm scared.